In Los Angeles, Mike washes himself thoroughly and grabs his gun before getting in his car. Then he turns on a tracker to find Masood's vehicle and follows him around town. When Mike sees a tunnel, he drives ahead to block it. As Masood stops behind him, Mike puts on a mask and opens his trunk. Soon Masood comes over, so Mike points his gun at him. After checking his pockets, he forces him to get in his trunk and asks for his phone password. Mike tells him there's water in the trunk before closing it. Then he removes the tracker he installed months ago on Masood's car and steals his phone before returning to his own vehicle to leave. Meanwhile, cousins Ben and Ali get their guns ready before entering a jewelry shop. The owner Sammy gives them a set of diamonds that they put in a briefcase. Then Sammy takes Ben to his office and tells him that the diamonds in the suitcase are fake. The real ones are worth $3 million and Ben must hide them in his socks. At that moment, Mike parks outside the shop and sends Sammy a text from Masood's phone, saying he's ready. Before the cousins leave, Sammy asks to see their guns. He isn't happy with Ali's weapon, so he gives him a new one. The cousins then take off in their car and Mike follows them, pretending to be Masood. Eventually they stop at a parking lot, so Mike puts on his mask again and parks too close to them on purpose, breaking their mirror. He points his gun at them and shows them his phone to play a live broadcast of Ben's house as a threat. Mike makes the duo drop their guns and phones in his car. Then he comes out and points his gun at Ben as he asks for the real diamonds, since he knows the ones in the suitcase are fake. At first Ben pretends he doesn't know anything, so Mike mentions his wife by name as another threat. Ben gives him the real diamonds and Mike goes to his car to release Masood. This distraction allows Ali to grab his second gun. When Mike returns to his car, he gives the phones back to Ali, who points the gun at him. His hand trembles, so he misses the shot and hits the window instead. A terrified Mike immediately drives away, moving through town as fast as possible. He almost crashes multiple times and hits the back of another car, but he keeps going until he reaches a parking lot. There, he takes a moment to calm down before taking off his contact lens. Then he covers the car and switches to another one to leave. Meanwhile, Sharon visits Steven in his amazing mansion to sell him an insurance policy. After showing off his security system, Steven pulls out a gun and takes Sharon to the window, telling her to hit a bottle. Sharon never shot a gun before, so she misses. They move to the table by the pool to discuss policy options and Sharon sees a young woman walk by. She assumes she's Steven's daughter, but he explains she's actually his fiancée. Sharon immediately tries to include her in the conversation, but the mood is awkward now. Moments later, detectives Lou and Tillman arrive at the parking lot to investigate the robbery. They question the cousins and find it suspicious that the robber had so much information, but Ben swears he isn't involved. There's a camera on the wall, but it was cut off. Afterward, Lou tells Tillman that he thinks this is the same robber he's been tracking for months because it fits all the characteristics. No violence is used, cameras cut off in advance, he knows exactly what is transported and when, and he disappears in seconds using Route 101. Tillman is skeptical and reveals that his lieutenant told him to change partners. He said no, but he needs Lou to put himself together or he'll ruin their careers. When Mike gets home, he hides the diamonds in a cup. Then he touches his head only to realize he has an injury caused by the broken window. He checks the mask and finds a bloodstain, which means there may be blood in the abandoned car too. In the evening, Mike meets with Money, a man who buys stolen goods to resell in the black market. Mike admits he's nervous about the incoming job in Santa Barbara because it'll involve lots of civilians and he doesn't want anyone to get hurt, but Money just tells him to think of a better plan. Before leaving, Mike exchanges cups with him. Then Money makes a special call. In a hotel, Mike hires a lady for the night, but he isn't in the right state of mind. He goes home and researches the employees from the insurance company, particularly noticing Sharon's profile. The next day, the insurance company discusses the stolen diamonds and Sharon is sent to talk to the police. It irritates her because they give Steven's account to someone else. At the police station, Tillman and Lou question Sammy, who is offended by the implications of fraud. Sammy explains he didn't talk to anyone about the diamonds and only sent emails, which means he was hacked. At a diner, Mike is paying a hacker to get intel from Sharon's social media, email, calendar, and phone messages. Meanwhile, Orman drives his bike at a very high speed until he reaches a parking lot where Money is waiting. Money explains that Mike has lost his nerve and won't do the Santa Barbara job, so he wants Orman to do it instead. That night, Mike is driving peacefully when suddenly another car rear-ends his. Maya tries asking Mike for his insurance information, but Mike offers her cash to pay for the damage instead. Since this is her boss's car, Maya needs to do this through the official channels and forces him to exchange information anyway. The next day, Sharon meets with Lou and explains that the insurance company wants a polygraph test for Sammy and the cousins. Lou can tell that the company doesn't want to pay and insults their tricks, so Sharon insults the corrupt police system. An argument ensues and Sharon says that statistics point to this being an inside job. This gives Lou an idea, so he leaves. At the police station, Lou calls his team for a meeting. He puts up a map of the 219 robberies from the last 4 years, then removes the ones that have certain characteristics, value under 500,000, no courier or armored vehicle, use of violence, and leaving DNA or other evidence. The remaining robberies form a pattern on the 101 freeway, and Lou theorizes that this criminal hacks jewelers' communications to know when they'll move their merchandise. He thinks the next robbery will be in the north. After the meeting, the lieutenant scolds Lou for his presentation. He points out that many of those cases on the pattern already have suspects and one was already closed. Reopening them would hurt the department's clearance rate, and their only priority is to keep their numbers strong. Lou has no support for his theory. At the same time, Orman parks his bike outside a bank and watches a man with a suitcase get in their car. Moments later, this man is entering a jewelry store in Santa Barbara. Orman jumps on him and pushes him inside with his gun out. When he tries to take the man's briefcase, he discovers it's handcuffed to his wrist. Then Orman makes everyone get down on the floor and checks the back office, but there's only a baby. After hitting a woman with his gun, he points it at the man and asks for the key, so the guy tells him it's in his car. When Orman looks through the window he sees no cars, which makes him furious. He starts hitting the man's face until he admits the key is on his neck. The guy finally opens the handcuffs and Orman takes the suitcase, ready to leave. However, he notices there's more valuable jewelry in the store, so he grabs an employee by the hair and makes her unlock the cabinets. After the poor woman puts all the jewelry in Orman's bag, he makes everyone lie on top of the first man. When he tries to leave he finds the door locked, which means he has to go back and press a button to open it. He doesn't move fast enough and the door is locked again, so he shoots one of the cabinets to make an employee move. The alarm starts ringing as a man presses the button and Orman finally leaves. Meanwhile, Mike texts Maya to ask her out. In the evening, they meet in a very fancy restaurant and Mike pretends to be a software developer who moves around a lot. Maya admits she doesn't feel comfortable in a restaurant like this, so Mike explains he only brought her here because it's popular for dates. They change places and end up having street food instead. They chat for a while and manage to connect regardless of their differences. At the end of the date, Maya agrees to do this again. After she leaves, Mike learns about Orman's robbery from the news. At a diner, Lou talks to his wife, who reveals she's been cheating on him. When he gets a call from Tillman, he ignores it to concentrate on the conversation. His wife says she can move out, but Lou tells her to stay because he'll be the one to do it. They yell at each other before he leaves. Afterward, Lou joins his team in the jewelry store. Tillman points out that this robbery fits Lou's theory since this shop is in the north, but Lou thinks this was a different robber because the usual one isn't violent. In the meantime, Mike meets with Money and calls him out for using the information he gathered but sending another guy. Mike feels like Money has betrayed his trust, so if this happens again he won't work with him anymore. A furious Money reminds Mike that he wouldn't be anyone without him, but Mike just walks away. At the insurance company, Sharon watches Sammy take the polygraph test. He's pretty offended by the implication that he may be lying and insults Sharon and her company. Sometime later, Money tells Orman that Mike is planning something new, so he wants Orman to follow him. Instead of doing the next robbery, Orman has to let Mike do it and then rob Mike himself. In the afternoon, Orman watches Mike meet with the hacker. All the information has been encrypted on a silly website, so Mike gets a note explaining how to access it. After Mike leaves, Orman checks his phone, revealing he's put a tracker in Mike's car. At home, Mike studies Sharon's information and learns her calendar. The next day he follows her to a restaurant. When she's about to leave, he pretends he's another client and chats with her about cars. At the police station, Lou and Tillman study all the robbery footage. Lou concludes that the robber changed cars and wants to search the area. In the evening, Maya goes to Mike's place for another date. She notices he has no personal items and no photos of his family, so he says he's not in touch with them. He also reveals that he grew up poor, so he's not used to keeping stuff. Maya then turns on the music and convinces him to dance with her. This soon escalates into kissing and getting naughty. When they're done, Maya starts getting dressed, but Mike convinces her to stay. The following night, Mike goes out to the balcony for some fresh air and sees a light in the distance that gives away Orman's location. After watching Orman leave on his bike, Mike rushes to his car and searches every inch until he finds the tracker, which he immediately removes. Then he makes a call to rent a new place. The next morning, Orman pretends to be a delivery guy and bursts into the hacker's apartment. He throws him around the room before sitting on him to point his gun at his mouth, demanding to know what he's been doing for Mike. Meanwhile, Lou is still searching every parking lot in the area. Today he finally sees the covered car and immediately checks inside to find the glass shards. Soon the forensics team is doing a full search and finds a tiny drop of blood. Later, Mike goes to an art gallery, knowing Sharon will be there. He pretends it's a coincidence and she remembers him from the restaurant, so they start chatting and end up sharing a drink. When Sharon explains her job and says it's taught her to read people, Mike wants her to read him. She concludes that he's a person with secrets, he's a bit OCD, and he has too much money and too much time on his hands. However, she can tell he didn't grow up with money. Mike feels uncomfortable, so he changes the subject and admits their meeting isn't a coincidence. He then starts listing all the things he's learned about her, including the fact that she's worked for the same company for 11 years yet they haven't given her a promotion. He explains that he partners with people who can give him information to plan his robberies, and he always makes sure that nobody gets hurt or traced. When Sharon gets offended at the idea of stealing instead of working hard, Mike points out that her company's shareholders aren't clean either. Sharon still wants to leave, so Mike tells her that if she changes her mind, she must post a photo of the beach on Instagram. After Sharon's gone, Mike notices Orman outside the bar and rushes to his car to follow him. They both drive at an incredibly high speed, making lots of sudden turns that endanger other cars. A bus suddenly gets between them and Mike has to stop the car. However, when the bus leaves, Orman is still there. The men share a tense look before the chase begins again. Orman keeps pulling off lots of tricks to keep his advantage, and eventually he manages to cause a car to crash. Thankfully, Mike reacts quickly and dodges it to keep following Orman, which is getting more difficult because they've reached a very busy street. When Orman turns around to check if Mike is still following him, he ends up crashing into a car and falls off his bike. Mike sees him walk away and follows him into a store, where Orman is getting a drink. Orman tries to play innocent, but Mike gets angry and aggressive, pushing against the fridge as he demands an explanation. He doesn't even let go when Orman bites his hand and pulls out his gun as a threat. Orman admits money sent him and Mike tells him that if he sees them again, they'll be dead. The next day, Sharon discovers that Lou has joined her yoga class. They chat for a while until Lou gets a call from the police station, telling him about some strange vehicles outside a jewelry store. Lou rushes to the crime scene and finds another detective shooting down a running thief. He takes off the criminal's mask only to find a teenager. While Lou looks around, the other detective checks on the teen and says he's armed. Lou looks again and sees a gun in the boy's hand, but he's sure that it wasn't there before. At the police station, Lou tells the lieutenant what he saw. The lieutenant isn't happy because he wants to protect his men and reveals that Tillman has agreed to lie. He announces that the 3 detectives are suspended until the investigation is concluded. While Lou gets his things, he receives a report with the DNA test from the car and the person in the system that matches it. It turns out Mike's real name is James. He was in foster care and has a whole juvenile record. At the insurance company, Sharon is frustrated because another employee has closed the deal with Steven. After the meeting, her boss tells her she's not getting a promotion this year, but maybe the next one will work out. Sharon calls him out since he's been promising the same thing for years and threatens to take her clients to another company. His boss mocks her, pointing out that rich guys won't follow a 53-year-old. A furious Sharon goes to the beach and takes a picture for her Instagram. Mike immediately gets an alert and rushes to pick her up. She tells him about a courier who will deliver watches and gems to Steven's wedding suit as favors for his wedding. Since Steven pays everything in cash, a lot of money will be present too. In total they could steal $11 million, and Sharon wants 3. Mike points out it's very risky, so he'll think about it. That night Lou goes to the last address listed on Mike's file. He meets Anne, but she doesn't understand why anyone would look for James there. Soon Mike gets a voicemail from Anne, who tells him they need to talk. Mike immediately calls her back and explains that a cop is looking for him. When she passes the phone to Lou, Mike hangs up. Afterward, Mike surprises Sharon in her car and confirms he'll do the heist. He gives her a disposable phone and instructs her to destroy the SIM card after every call. The next day, Mike goes to the wedding hotel to investigate the security. Meanwhile, Sharon gets all the information about Steven's wedding from the company's system. Later at home, Sharon destroys the SIM card and takes out the trash. When she returns to her apartment, Orman knocks her down and hits her a few times, threatening to do worse if she doesn't tell him what she's been doing with Mike. The next day, Sharon doesn't participate in the yoga class but still waits until the end to show Lou her bruises. They hide in the parking lot to talk and she tells him everything, confirming that she had to tell Orman everything too. Lou can't promise he can keep her out of jail, but he does tell her to stay at his place for her safety. While Orman goes to the hotel to follow an employee, Lou returns to the police station to check the evidence of the diamond robbery and finds the bag with the fake ones. Meanwhile, at a restaurant, Mike has a date with Maya and informs her he'll be out of town because of work, but he wants her to wait for him. Maya doesn't believe the work excuse and goes on a rant about knowing nothing about him. Mike finds it patronizing and explains that people who grew up with money will never understand having to do bad things to survive. It's not enough for Maya, who walks away. The next day, Sharon goes to work as usual, but she can't stop tracking the courier's plane on her phone. Then she notices her coworker laughing at her boss's jokes. She bursts into her office and goes on a rant, explaining to her that the bosses make lots of promises but they're all lies. They only want young women to get the creepy rich guys. After insulting her boss too, Sharon leaves the office with her head held high. At the same time, Mike is waiting in the parking lot near the airport. He finds the guard hired for the delivery and points his gun at him, showing him his house on his phone feed as a threat. He steals the guy's car and phone to pretend to be the hired guard. Eventually, the courier's plane lands and the man is approached with an urgent message. Soon Mike picks up the courier, unaware that Lou has exchanged places with the real guy. During the trip, they try to chat casually, but it's clear they're both very tense and keep glancing at each other with suspicion. At the hotel, Orman changes into the employee's uniform and gets a room order for the wedding suite. When Mike and Lou arrive, they go straight to see Steven. As soon as they close the door, Mike pulls out his gun and makes everyone get on their knees. Steven doesn't want to talk, but his fiancée is terrified and confirms that the cash is in the safe. Mike makes Steven open the safe and takes out all the cash. Once it's in his bag, he tells Lou to open the briefcase with the jewels. Lou does so and finds the gun he hid there earlier. He points it at Mike and reveals he's a cop. They keep threatening each other until Orman bursts into the room and grabs Mike, disarming him while pointing his own gun at Lou. Everyone starts yelling at each other without knowing what to do. Eventually Orman snaps and shoots Steven down. Then he asks Lou to push the suitcase with the jewels, but he gets nervous because a cop has seen his face. They start arguing but are interrupted when Orman suddenly falls dead. It turns out Mike has taken him down with the gun he took from Lou. After checking Orman's pulse, Lou moves Mike's gun away. He tells him to leave the city and never come back, promising to blame everything on Orman. Mike finally drops his gun and leaves the room. A furious Steven yells at Lou for making a deal with a thief, but Lou threatens to investigate him for tax evasion and importation of illegal stones if he doesn't lie about what happened too. His fiancée scolds him, so Steven agrees to cooperate. On the street, Mike gets to walk away while police cars surround the hotel. On the bus, Lou reveals he has Steven's diamonds and left the fake ones in the suitcase. He then goes to the yoga class to give the diamonds to Sharon so she can start a new life. In return, she shows him a picture Mike sent with the message for the cop. Meanwhile, Mike drives out of the city. Later, Lou goes to the location of the picture and finds Mike's antique car. The keys are included, so he gets to drive it. Meanwhile, Maya receives an envelope with a picture of Mike's childhood. On its back, he apologizes and hopes they can reconnect. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.